Hello and welcome. In this live broadcast of the Cole Memo, I'll be sitting down with Dan Smallsoft, the founder and CEO of Prairie State Cannabis, to unpack what it really takes to build a craft cannabis business right here in the state of Illinois. Dan's going to share his journey from farming and racing to hemp and craft cannabis. And when we're talking cannabis, he's going to explain how shifting rules, unclear guidance, and delayed state support have made an already difficult process even harder. If you're catching this episode later and wondering how can I catch these episodes premiering live, I'd say the best way is to head on over to colememo.com/YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you never miss a stream. The podcast also releases on platforms like SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and other podcasting platforms, or you can just go to colememo.com. To support the show financially, head on over to colememo.com/support or consider becoming a patron at colememo.com/Patreon. For just $3 a month, you'll help keep this show going and you'll occasionally get early access to content. Just a quick thank you. This is one of those episodes that released first for my paying patrons. Thank you so much. Your support helps make conversations like this possible and allows me to keep doing this work independently. Once again, if you'd like to join the Patreon page, you can do so at colememo.com/PATREON. It only costs $3 a month to be a paying member. There's also a free membership. One of the best ways to support the show is absolutely free, especially if you're watching on platforms like YouTube. I know everybody says this, but if you hit that like button, subscribe, give the show a favorable rating from wherever you're tuning in from, or share it with your friends, it helps so much more than you might think. I mean, look, it helps to have more eyes and ears on the show. Speaking of the show, it's time to get into it. Folks, are you ready for another episode of
The Cole Memo?
The Cole Memorandum.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memo.
The Cole Memorandum.
I mean, you have to respect the memo.
All right, so now I'm joined by Dan. Dan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Yeah, I'm Dan Smallsoft, founder and CEO of Prairie State Cannabis, LLC here in Macomb, Illinois, home of the Fighting Leathernecks, WIU.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Dude, let's go back a few years. How did you... Well, first, before we talk about how you got into the cannabis industry, tell me a little bit about yourself, Dan, like just,
Well, believe it or not, in a past life, I was a professional race car driver.
Okay.
So I'd say, I grew up on a family farm. That was really the carrot that was always out in front of me. Growing up as a kid that, hey, I was just going to farm. And farming's changed a lot in the last 10 years. To elaborate on it a little more, I grew up in a little town of Adair, Illinois, which is maybe 300 people. That's where our race shop was. And a guy like my second dad, Jim Kinney and Joyce Kinney, they were the people from the Shriners Hospital that had the trains that the kids could ride on. And they developed a Blue Bug association too. So, young age, working on Volkswagens and trailers and just farm stuff. And then, high school, I kind of made the transition from, the highest level of go-karting internationally that you could do into cars. So in 98, we were going to run the Indy 500 with Paul Dematlovich. One of my really good friends, Sam Hornish Jr., his dad and him ran that car the year before, and he'd moved over into the Pennzoil Penske car. So his dad, called my dad, and we kind of put that deal together. But I was crossing the Indiana state line, and I've got older brother and an older sister. My older brother farms 50-50 with my dad. Dad's probably 82. My brother's 61, I think. So my older siblings are about 14 years older than I am. I'm 47. But, I just told him, I said, hey, if I can't find the sponsorship to do this on my own, I said, we're not going to take any more from the farm. And in the month of May back in 1998 cost $998,000 just to run practice, carb day, the Indy 500, and that was just the month of May.
Damn.
So I can't even imagine what they're spending now. And a lot of those, I'd say half the fields are Interide. That's the thing a lot of people don't know. Even like in NASCAR, you've got one or two paid drivers, and then you got two or three that just have bottomless pits of sponsorship dollars that they spread across, the whole team. And then we were going to go truck racing. And one really interesting aspect of it was my racing equipment, safety equipment sponsor was roommates with the owner of Vivid Video.
Oh. So
he was all over me to run a NASCAR truck with Vivid Video on the side, and we petitioned NASCAR and got told politely no. So that was a fun time in life. So I was over about a year later. I was over in France racing the Elf Lafayette runoff, and they took two kids from the U.S. and two kids from a bunch of other countries. And we raced at Le Mans and basically had a runoff. And me and my teammate, we won that series. So we got a $750,000 scholarship to participate in that racing series over there that year. The issue, I don't want to say it was an issue, but I had my son Evan she was pregnant at 15, or I was 15, she was 20. And at my 16th, around my 16th birthday, we had my son, Evan. And then when I was 18, we had my oldest daughter, Brooklyn. So life changed real quick. They supported me, wanted me to stay over there and chase my dreams. I mean, Danica Patrick was a teammate at Tony Kart and Bridgestone, and she was over there running Formula Vauxhall when I was over there running the Elf Lafayette stuff. So really interesting racing background. But I decided to come home, be a dad. And unfortunately, a year and a half later, we were divorced. It was horrible. No one wins at a divorce. And I don't ever want to put kids in that position again. It's just gut wrenching. The Illinois laws really need to change. I think custody laws in general, and especially finance. I think if a guy or a girl commits adultery, why is the person blowing the family up entitled to half of the marital assets?
Right.
It just makes no sense to me. So, hey, I can cheat and move up the ladder,
Yeah.
But and it's just, that's probably an episode in itself, looking at the tragedy stories of a wife or a dad or a mom or whatever, but or the kids are the ones that lose. But anyways, at that point, I came back to the farm, started a seed dealership, sold seed for Golden Harvest, become dealer of the year that first 2 years. Then we had a little bit of a hiccup at the farm, kind of scared the shit out of me, and I went to the railroad. So I was a conductor, remote control operator, where I could run the engines from a remote control on my chest. I was a hostler, where I could drive the engines around the yard. And then I moved into a yard master role. I was there 10 years. And I had a crop insurance business with country companies at the same time. And then that was about the time we started the Outskirts, which was my dream. And we bought this old skating rink here in Macomb in 2012. Tried to run it as a skating rink until about 14. I was not robbing Peter to pay Paul, but basically taking some railroad money, to keep it afloat. Because usually 6, 7, 8, 9 kids through the door, wouldn't have any money or wouldn't have any pop for a drink. And, I'm not going to let a kid not experience, having fun and coming to our establishment, because that was the whole point. And to teach my daughters how to work, With that being said, in 2014, we made a big adjustment. We put in a 28-foot hood, so we ever worked with or ever ate, as food. I've been all over the country and the world, and it was just shocking that we put out that kind of food. But Western University's budgeted, it was talked about getting cut. We had a 16,000 square foot event center, so we were planning on doing weddings, and we had tons of bands. Chris Lane, Drowning Pool, Modest Mai, or was it Modest Mai that sings the Michael Jackson remix?
Oh.
Yeah, they were cool, and that guy was interesting. And then we had Saving Abel, which was interesting on their own prior to getting here. Let's just say we got a package in the mail, and it was a little questionable. But I don't know if I can say that on the air, but I did. So it is what it is. We threw it in the trash and went on. But so at the end of the start of 2016 was when Ronner was in office. And, believe it or not, things were bad enough at the outskirts that I was working third shift as a janitor 28 hours a week, just trying to help pay the bills. So, but all this time that I'm doing all this, I'm preparing for, the hemp that's coming here in Illinois in 2018. And, and we had our eye on cannabis, in 2014. I think if our farm was positioned just a little bit better than it was, I think we probably would have put in and made a run against Nature's Grace and Wellness, because they're only about 11 miles. Well, probably not that. Probably 9 miles from our family farm. My dad was best friends with Stan O'Hearn, which is Larry Joe's brother and Tim's uncle. So we've known them our whole life. Good people, just hard workers. A lot of us farmers down here are. We do a lot less. We do a lot with a lot less than most. But anyways, fast forward to 2018 when the hemp stuff started really getting talked about. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. So about the middle of 2016, when Ronner shut the higher education budget off, my wife had a clothing store and a hair salon here in town. And like I said, we were killing it. We were doing really well at the outskirts. But our P&L, it just kneecapped us. As soon as he shut the budget off, all of our high-end clientele from Western, literally overnight, was gone. Those older professors, they must have smelled blood in the water or something, because they were literally gone within weeks, and we'd never seen them again. So our P&L was cut in half, if not down to a quarter. And we were, I think the last time my wife and I looked at it, I want to say we were like 2,200 to 3,000, to the good one month or bad to the next. And 2016, we decided we needed to shut it down. So that was the end of my dream. But still have the building. The building is going to be our craft grow. So it's going to come full circle. We're going to employ a lot of people, so I'm excited about that. My whole thing is I've grown up here. The community's been great to me, and I just want to give back and do what I can to just help, the community. But yeah, so in 2018, met Jeff Cox. We started, planning for that. Believe it or not, this moment would kind of come full circle in a year or two. So just
Hi, so am I. And I know you probably are too, since you're tuned into the Cole Memo. Hey, just a quick heads up before we continue. There were a few moments during this conversation where we briefly lost connection. So if you hear me ask Dan to restart a sentence or pick back up, that's why. I just wanted to make sure that you, the listener, heard everything clearly and didn't miss anything that Dan was trying to say. Back to the episode. Enjoy.
at the time. So
Hey, Dan.
yeah,
You cut off for me when you said this moment would come full circle. You were talking about Jeff Cox. Can you restart that?
yeah.
thought?
Yeah, so we met Jeff Cox, and got some insight, give him some thoughts, and then we found out Western Illinois University was going to work with Andy Houston, which is a friend of mine, north of Macomb in Roseville, Illinois. He actually had the third dispensary license in 2014 in Canton, Illinois. So they've since sold out to GTI, but great guy, knows a lot about hemp and cannabis. Can't thank Andy enough for all he's done for me and our family, and we owe him, and we'll get him taken care of. But with that being said, at that point in time is when I met a guy by the name of David Kotler, who is kind of a national cannabis lawyer. I wouldn't say he's flashy or kind of in the light, but he's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And from this point, a couple years down the road, we'll come back and talk about David Kotler, because we grew 10 acres of hemp, 25,000 plants. We brought those into the outskirts, which is the skating rink, and we dried all that hemp. We did it in thirds, and I think we hauled 72 semi-loads, reefer loads of product in, and it was just phenomenal. We had 18,733 pounds of smokable flower and couldn't sell it. It was when the market absolutely bottomed out on CBD oil, CBD products, and in general, I think we sold 70 pounds of sprayed D8 flower. And, I was doing everything I could for the three investors that really believed in hemp. And I did everything I could to make them guys their money back, because it was just so sad. I mean, when we started, we were probably capable of making 900,000, and we had about 350,000 in it. So it was just sad, for all the labor and all the work and the love that we put into that. Was just really sad, because again, Illinois brought something to market that didn't have any market, and that's really the problem. I mean, I commend the USDA and all the states for giving it a try, but the thing that really pisses me off more than anything is it's just like our last what do you call it, rules convention, or where you can speak at, and David Lakeman and the department, they wanted to give infusers the right to process. Well, they also wanted to, what was the other thing that they were going to do that was kind of out there? I think it was how they were going to measure CBD and cannabinoids coming into our grows to to use. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Oh yeah, wasn't it like by the liter or something like that?
Yeah, it was a certain measurement, but
yeah.
I mean the big thing for us is I'm on the Illinois Independent Craft Growers Board, and the only reason why I got on the board and got heavily involved is because I'm a thinker. I'm a problem solver, and when everybody was telling me that these craft grows are 10, 15, 20 million dollars, I'm just like, where? Show me where that money's going. And in 21, when we won our craft license through extensive litigation, which was kind of crazy because it was so extensive, when we finally got to the end of our road with the judge, we're the only craft grow that was awarded via bench warrant. I mean, we walked out with our license in our hand.
And was that due to scoring questions?
Yeah. So we had 2 apps going through, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah.
But
if you want to keep that for later, we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Because we're going in,
So now we've got this hemp we can't sell.
Yep.
Believe it or not, I stored it up until last year, and we burn it. We just burn it. And
do you stand next to the fire and just?
Oh man, I'm
sorry. No, I'm joking.
It was absolutely crazy how hot it was. I don't know if you know much about trees and wood and BTUs or not, but like the one thing that everybody talks about down here, because we've got a lot of hedge, is don't be throwing a lot of hedge in your wood stove, or you'll melt her down. But I'm telling you that hemp stock and the biochar that we picked up from that, that's really an interesting concept right now. Is EVs are kind of taking a hit in the market, and I think it's rightfully so. I think Toyota's the smartest in the and Honda in the EV market, because I think you got to have a little engine to go somewhere. The battery's going to run out on you at some point in a bad spot. So, knowing my luck, and I'd be going to court, and oh shit, I forgot to charge the car.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, so that was interesting. I knew it was going to burn hot, but I didn't realize it'd burn like
that hot.
Yeah, I mean it was hot. But we're talking semi-load, just
sure.
backing it out in the field and letting her go. It was awesome. But anyways,
so the whole point that you got you off on this tangent, you're saying you were going to try the hemp thing. You couldn't do it. Illinois didn't have a market for it. You have all this hemp. I know you fast forwarded to today or last year or whatever, when you destroyed it. But anyways, continue from that point. Yeah.
So from that point, I was trying to, this is kind of also when the craft thing kind of come out and was being talked about.
So this is like 2018, 2019 still, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm sorry I jumped ahead.
No, you're good. You're good.
But anyways, so yeah, that started to come around, and I thought I had 4 guys that were just going to be absolute shoe-ins to put a team together to win one of those licenses, right? The 11th hour came, literally 11 o'clock at night, the night before the apps had to be in. I didn't have one guy willing to sign up or help or anything. And David Kotler usually calls me, or Coulter usually calls me, if he wants help, with a problem or fixing something or just looking at something a little different. He literally calls me, I'm just about beside myself because this is all I've ever wanted to do. And and I'm not a church or godly person. I believe in something out there, but God had to have something to do with this, because he literally called me and says, "Hey, I've got 3 applicants that their properties just blew up in their face." So he said, "I'm going to send you an email. I know you've got property down there. Can you get it zoned? And I said, yeah, I'll have it done by noon. So there, right there, I had 3 licenses that I was, a part of in some way. And, I think when we were in Florida, we were at mom and dad's house in Florida. And I think that's when I faxed most of that stuff up, and then COVID hit. I think it was like the week we drove home, COVID had hit, and we were in their little, retirement community and didn't even know about it, so we're calling to find meat on the way home, and it was crazy. But anyways, I owe it all to my partner, David Kotler. He remembered how bad I wanted it, and how devastated I was when we didn't get a team put together. So one of the 3 didn't want to pursue it. They just didn't want to drive down here with things. The other 2 pursued it, 120%, 200%, just everything we had, we give it. And they were identical applications. I mean, literally, because they were both my design. I was going to operate them both. I mean, it was legitimately bang, bang, So the funny thing is the very first deficiency we only get it for 1. Then the second deficiency comes out, and we get it for the second one, not the first one. So it's like, okay, how's this? These are 2 different applications that are the same, and the first one, A got it, the second one, B got it, but neither one of them got the same deficiency. So I'm just sitting there scratching my head, just literally scratching my head, thinking, how stupid is this? I mean, how ridiculous is this scoring process? Because there's no way that those 2 applications should have had the same deficiency, period. So I told our team, I said, look, we were probably $400,000 into this, and I just finally told my team, I was like, look, you guys don't want to carry it on. I'm going to, because I have this feeling that we're going to win, and it was just meant to be. Well, the one licensee didn't really listen to following my path on how we were going to litigate. And they were in that last 33 bunch that they only give out 15. So right. They'd done their own thing when we'd already won, and I'm like, why are you guys not listening to me or following our lead? It's the same application. But whatever, tweet, that you can't lead a horse to water. But
yep.
So we won, we won, and I didn't tell my wife for 30 days because, and I don't want this to sound weird, but everything that I'd been through with the hemp program, everything we went through with the application process, and everything that we went through with just about everything with the state, the Department of Ag, it just never made sense. And it just wasn't, I didn't have that elation, that excitement that I thought I would. And like I said, I waited 30 days before, in the right moment, obviously, to tell her. But Dr. Shelby Hennings from Western Illinois University's cannabis program, I drove to his house as soon as I found out. And I walked up to the door, and his door, he's got a big old Victorian house, and his door's got the big glass, and he's looking through it at me as I'm walking up the street, and I'm damn near in tears. It's like such a mixed amount of emotion that we won, and then it was just so hard, and so I walked up and knocked on the door, and he'd had it open as I was getting ready to knock, and he says, "You won, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, sir, I did." He says, "Well, I don't know whether to kick you in the nuts or hug you." And I said, well, why is that? And he says, well, you realize this is just the starting point. And, that was the thing that was hard to swallow, and why I probably waited to tell my wife was because I knew going through litigation that winning the license was going to be the easiest part of our track. Because once we won it, I was in go mode, like hammered down. And unfortunately, one of our partners couldn't pledge the money that was there. So me and my wife had to get a lot more involved than we'd planned on. And now it's moving forward. So we've got our financing. The skating rink, believe it or not, is a big flat slab of concrete, which is kind of odd to look at. We removed about 120 ton of block from the skate walls and all the little partitions, but that was really bittersweet too, because I was tearing apart my dream, and now we're starting another one. The bad thing though is like, I want to go back to the application. It's you can call the state and you can tell the state, hey, I've got two identical, not even a dot's different. Why am I getting a deficiency for one and not the other? They can't tell you. So once we won, I had some information that a friend of ours was growing outdoors. Well, hey, I just grew 10 acres and 25,000 plants successfully, under the THC, everything. So I'm like, hey, we're golden, man. So we were going to grow 2.5 acres, just to put a little money in our pocket to recoup the 3.1 million that we've got in our license, and the sad thing is I can go buy a license for $150,000, $200,000 right now, so I hate to say it. I think it was my dad. He's like, well, by God, if that license is worth what you say it is, we wanted to go to the end. We wanted to make
Dan.
it work. Yeah.
You cut out when you said your dad said if that license is as much as you say it is, and then you cut out. Can you restart that thought?
Yeah. So Dad said, hey, if those licenses that are being awarded right now are worth what you're saying they're worth, or the offers are what they are, I'd sell it. And looking back with the amount of money we had invested, I almost wish I'd have took his advice and advised my partner and my other partner to maybe consider it, but we didn't consider it because we knew we were going to get to the end and it was just meant to be. So, after that, we go out raising money. Well, there's a lot of people in cannabis that don't pay the bills.
And by the way, this is like late 2019, 2020, or late 2020. When are we talking now?
I think we won in 21.
21. Okay. Thank you.
I think it was 21. I think it was June of 21.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because it was the lawsuits kind of held everything up for a while.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, you're talking about going out and raising money.
Yeah. So we go to the first Benzinga that's at the Palmer House. Beautiful, beautiful deal. It was a great program, but nobody wants to talk to a startup business. Nobody. I get it. We're risky. Plus, a lot of the MSOs, they're already dealing with these people that are giving out the money. I'd love to have a conversation with, what is it, Steve Ernst from, Chicago Capital. I've got a different story. I'm a different I'm just a different entrepreneur than I think most of what he's used to. We've got 4 dispensary licenses that we're trying to stand up and be independently vertical. So we've got a little road to go yet, but we're getting there. But back to the grow. We want our license. I go talk to Shelby Hennings. The next day I get up, I literally call the Department of Ag and I ask 2 questions. I would like a checklist of how you grade your inspections on a grow. Then I asked if I could grow outdoors. Actually, I had 3. And then I asked, once they told me absolutely not, that I could not grow outdoors in no shape, way, or fashion, I said, okay, can I grow in a container? Oh no, we can't allow you to grow in a container. And I asked him, I said, I'd really like to have some clarification on that. If you can have somebody call me back with why, I would really like to know. And I love educated people talking to a farmer and telling them how to farm. That just makes me laugh my ass off, because they told me that we couldn't grow in containers because of aphids. I said, we deal with more aphids than you've ever seen in your life with our corn crops, so we can control aphids. But I don't understand, so kind of getting back to my mission on bringing the cost down and trying to get these people open. I want to say one thing though that the governor did that absolutely killed this program. And that was during COVID, when all these people were bitching about paying rent. If you don't have real estate, you shouldn't have got a license, because the real estate is the only thing that you can borrow and do anything to get these things going. So for my, and that's being harsh, but I'm talking, if I didn't have property, and a guy had a better situation than me, I want the best guys to win, and that's why a lot of these have drug on, and ours included. It's not easy raising money, but I think honestly that's the one thing that absolutely killed the selection process, number one, and really set this social equity program back. I'd say it set it back at least 5 years. And the thing is I remember calling, I want to say it was Crew. I called Crew, where we had a craft meeting or whatever it was. But anyways, I'm almost positive I was talking to Crew, and I said, you realize I can buy 5,000 square feet of canopy, a mother and a bedroom, for like $2 million in containers, ready to go. But we can't do that. I said, so with these guys that are getting these loans for 1.25 after they got both, at least those guys could go borrow money to do that. Not, $1 million is not going to even raise a banker's blood pressure when you're buying $10 million, you're borrowing $10 million. So if they wouldn't let us do that, I mentioned, okay, why aren't we co-locating? Why aren't we allowing 3 of those loan people to put $3 million together to go build one $10 million project? And once, they're operational, yeah, they're going to shave off, or whatever, or become big, but at that point you're at 30%, debt to ratio. And it's the best shot that these social equity people had. And I just cannot believe that how many times that I'd bring this stuff up and it just fall on deaf ears. But I truly feel like the one call, and I know why the governor did it. There's a lot of those people in Chicago were probably paying exorbitant rents because it was cannabis. But at the end of the day, you got to pay to play the game. I mean, let's face it, we're at the end of our rope. And we need that $750 from the DECO. We literally pressed the button before the deadline, have a screenshot of it, and filed a lawsuit. And They won't play ball with us. And my problem is you just dicked around the closest craft grow to being open in Illinois right now because we have construction financing. DCO just dicked around our craft grow over a minute or 2 minutes. So the $3.5 million that we've got invested, you just stuck your middle finger at us, and it's bullshit.
Yeah.
So we're not done with them. So I won once. I can guarantee you I'm going to win again because it's wrong. It is absolutely wrong. We're the only craft grow that had to litigate to get our license. We lost out on the first 2 loan programs, which would have been 1.25. And, so if we'd have got the 1.25, at least we could have recouped some of our initial money to lick our wounds a little bit and keep pushing. But we've kept pushing on our own. So, you know what? It's just meant to be. But this last DECO thing, I want everybody to know, and Governor Pritzker, I sure hope you're listening, sir, because 2 minutes on the good, the only thing that happened is our little spinny thing down there on the right-hand corner in the bottom was still spinning at 5 o'clock. Whatever on the state side didn't accept it. It didn't record it. It's not my problem. You can search. I'm trying to think of what their program is. They're called Silver Sheets, or there's some company. I've got emails from them that handles all their infrastructure. And you Google problems that they've had. I mean, it's just astronomical. So again, the DECO is going to give out loans to people that aren't going to get open because they don't even have a property probably. And that's probably mostly on the dispensary side. But come on, guys. You guys got to do better. You're just killing us out here. And the thing that really pisses me off is, I don't think I've ever seen or heard of Mr. Costello.
Who is that from? Is that from IDOA?
He's the head man. The only one we ever talked to is David Lakeman. And like I said, and Cole, you've been there. Every time I see him, I ask about a checklist. And I haven't gotten a checklist since 2021.
A checklist for inspections, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Like what to expect if an inspector came to your facility.
Yeah. I mean, that needs to be in some type of form, right? Let's say you and me go to Barry, Illinois, and we're going to go through and we're going to inspect a send. Well, you walk through it on a Saturday and I walk through it on a Sunday, and we don't have any type of form. I'm sure you're going to find things that I don't find, and I'm probably going to find things that you don't find.
Right.
So, I mean, it just doesn't even make sense as a business decision. They're just letting us sit out here and flounder, guess. It's just, like I said, here's my problem. I'm almost done listening to David because I know he's got a lot of shit on his plate, but it's been long enough.
Hey, Dan.
Yep.
Sorry, you just you dropped off. You were saying I'm almost done listening to David. He's got a lot of stuff on his plate, but I think it's time for somebody above him to roll their sleeves up and at least come down and help the poor man. And that's like I said, the head of the IDOA, never seen him, never heard of him. I mean, it's just crazy to me. Where's this guy at? He's the head of IODA, so he ought to be over the cannabis program. The other thing is I know the craft growers have asked to be, meetings with the governor himself. Well, luckily, a couple of them got to go through another channel and see him. But let's get some access. I mean, let's talk to the real people that invested real money
and borrowed real money that could have used the 750 and the loan that we missed because we litigated, we should have been able to apply for the 1.25 if you
Yeah.
want to be fair. So, like I said, DECO doing a great job.
Well, I want to just say, I want to get back to your story here, but I feel like now more than ever, for folks that are listening, the cannabis industry here in Illinois has some leverage with Governor Pritzker, because not only is he running for governor, but there's speculation on whether he's running for presidency. And so I'm wanting to document the stories of the participants in the Illinois cannabis industry. So if you're listening right now and would like the opportunity to share your story, please reach out. And I just want to get back and underline a few points you made. I know we already underlined this one, but just a checklist for inspections. What can we expect? You're almost like even asking, like, I want to help you. I want to help make your job easier. What can I expect from you so I can get everything ready?
The funny thing is Scott Redmond's, a retired attorney, head of the craft grow. And I think we've got maybe 2 or 3. Well, I know we've got a couple other attorneys on the board, but I know we've also got other attorneys in other firms that are in the craft grow. And now that supposedly all these groups are going to come together and be CBAI, super CBAI now, let's get some horsepower. Let's put some pressure on these people, because Scott and all these attorneys and myself, I'm in Macomb. I could drive over there and just let them bounce ideas off of me. But they're bouncing ideas off of people that ain't even farmed,
Sure.
It's just, I love educated people talking to farmer, telling me how to plant corn seed, it's just amazing.
So yeah, like the checklist, that's crazy. But then the other thing that you mentioned that I wrote down is not only just asking for flexibility to grow outdoors, like 2 growers that we know of at least are doing. I know a third one is suing right now. But even just taking it past growing outdoors, I wanted to really lean into something in case people didn't understand what you were saying. Even when you asked to use containers, aka prefabricated units, in other words, for people that don't know, it's like something you just plug into the wall, it's ready to go. It wouldn't be meant as a permanent solution. It's just a temporary measure to get some product grown, to get some income in. And that's the way I've been looking at all of these subjects, whether you're talking about growing outdoors, growing with containers, whether you're talking about co-locating. It's like, can the state throw us a little bit of a bone so that we can just get a little bit of money flowing in?
No, they won't. They just want to make it hard. Somebody's got to justify every aspect of their job.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm a simple guy, I've been fed so much bullshit that on this cannabis deal that it's just about made me sick.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I don't want to bash David Lakeman, because I know he's got a hell of a hill to climb and a lot of people to answer to, but a checklist, man, come on. Get Jerry out of his office and get Mr. Costello to do it. I just don't understand. I really don't understand.
Yeah.
So, then, so we're, and here's the other thing. Let me throw this zinger at you. So my skating rink, 80 by 200, clear span, concrete's poured. All we've got to do is tear up a little concrete to change the bathroom. We're bringing in insulated metal panels that go together like Legos. So why am I paying $375,000 on MEPs?
What does that mean?
Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing plans.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just stupid. I don't understand, because, like, if me and you went and rented the same building, another town, and we weren't in cannabis, those would be called fixtures because we can take them out.
Mm.
They're not permanent. So why do I need any plans for this building?
And this is a result of the CRTA, right?
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's just crazy, So there's let's just say that 1.25. Okay, now it's a $900,000 loan. Just because something that stupid, and here, granted, I don't, the IDOA isn't the fire marshal. It isn't the security buck stop. It isn't OSHA, but they're trying to play all those.
Gotcha.
And, I just, like I said, I look at my building as already being erect. It's already been approved by the city, to be built back in 69. And the only thing that I'm doing is going in and putting stuff that I could have an auction and pull completely out of the building, which is considered a fixture.
Right. And I think I've heard you say in the past that like you'd almost understand it if it was a new structure you were building.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, a new structure.
But this is a different thing. So
just, like I said, I'm just a simple guy that wants to help people get these built, as cheap as possible. And it is what word am I looking for? Is, I don't want to cut corners. I don't want anybody to cut corners for safety or, quality of the plant, none of that. But God, we got to get together. This is just crazy.
Well, right. There's things like that don't make sense. Like you were explaining the wire mesh requirement the other day and how like even like the placement or something.
Here we go. Again, not bashing or the department on this but from an engineering standpoint and all the years of my racing.
And can you restart that saying you said not bashing or something in the department? I just want to make sure.
Yeah, not bashing, the department on this, but I am just absolutely blown away that they want the mesh put on the inside of the vault. There's no strength that way. If I'm going to penetrate that vault, it would take me days to beat through that mesh with all the 2x4s on the other side of the mesh. If I'm trying to get into it. Because if you've got your 2x and you've got your mesh on the inside, all I'm going to do is take a sledgehammer and bang on that mesh until the fasteners come loose. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So you mentioned you also have like 5 dispensaries or something like that?
We've got 4 dispensary licenses. We've got a really awesome company and friend that I'm hoping we work with to get these open. We've got some great locations. I think that will give a lot of people that haven't had access or at least close access out here in the rural area to do so. So yeah, I mean, would love to get those rolling, because we've got product to put in them. My buddy at Stony Branch Farms, they're going to dabble just a little bit with me, so it's going to be interesting.
Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, I mean, I guess the way things stand today, it sounds like, you would be ready if these DCEO loans would have come through. I know you're dealing with litigation on that. But like any other thing to add, just like with the current state of affairs?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to have legislators do their job. I mean, let's face it. I mean, what have they passed in the last 2 years? No, I mean, nothing for us.
In the last 6 years.
Yeah, nothing for us. But I mean, I'm talking about, you just look at some of the stupid shit they pass. It's like, that's how you justify your paycheck. It just blows me away. blows me away, and like I said, being an ag guy, and we've dealt with the IDOA, prior to cannabis. My dad was on the U.S. Feeds Grain Council. He was on the Illinois Corn Marketing Board. That they did a lot of good, a lot of things, kind of cohesively sometimes, but I just don't understand why it's like the IDOA can't even get out of its own way to help us. I mean, it's just, you hear about new inspections, the state police signed off on something and the state inspectors come in and say, oh, we need another 6-8 cameras. No, the state police signed off on that. They're in control of that for the CRTA, I think. But anyways, we'll put them in to satisfy your needs. But you know what? It just doubled our it took our server to another level.
Right.
There's 50 grand. So I mean, these decisions that they make aren't, a box of Kleenex is here for life safety, or, it's serious dollars.
Well, and I've seen like in one of the rules meetings, or I should know the term, and maybe I'll try to look back and figure out the technical term for what we attended. But I saw you and Scott Redmond attended, and one of the suggestions was to, again, just sort of give you guys a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of flexibility. Is like, perhaps maybe can we, just make it so that the recordings start when there's motion like that. It's like, can we just, so that we can save a little bit of space?
Yeah.
And Scott made a very interesting point. I don't know if you recall this, but he was saying that like they had asked about it in the past and had been told one thing, and then somebody else was told another thing. And he actually said, like, why not do what I think he said the Illinois Department of Rev does, where they like post an opinion or an answer so that they don't have to, because oftentimes the parent, or I guess when that was asked about, the department would say, well, we don't have enough time. And it's like, well, do you have enough time to tell everybody a different answer? Like, why not just post one answer?
Well,
I thought that was a really interesting.
No, I mean, I hate to tell you, Scott is uber intelligent. I mean,
oh yeah, he's been on the show several times. I definitely know.
He can listen, he can read something, and he can just pick it apart. And it's always simple. It's not attorney bullshit. It's just, hey, this is how it is. But to your point, we've asked the department shit since we probably won our license and they were starting on that new website. We said the one thing we want you to do is have a chalkboard or a frequently asked questions that's dated, because the problem that we have, when we go around the board on our calls and stuff, is it's just like you're playing that. You remember the old game phone? You whisper in your buddy's ear and 10 people, it's never the same. So we're trying to help them be more efficient, and they just cannot do it. I just don't understand. Like I said, we've got several attorneys, Scott, that could take some workload off of someone. I mean, we've been willing to do it pro bono.
It's at a certain point, it's just like, what needs to be done? One of the questions I was going to ask you was like, how much uncertainty are you dealing with right now? But it seems like that's all you're dealing with right now.
Oh yeah, I don't have a fucking clue where we're going. I mean, sorry.
No, it's okay.
But no, I mean, we have no idea. I mean, I think cannabis in general in Illinois is probably stabilized a little bit. So I mean, I'm comfortable, but what shoe's going to drop next? I mean, that's my problem. I'm just scared to death of what's going to change. They've already sold transporters a fictitious license.
Well, and you mentioned it earlier. They changed how the infuser license works, and you argue at the expense of your license type, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, shit. They take processing away from a craft license, shit, I'll bet they won't be 50 grand because they're so expensive to build. The other thing that I want the infusers to know is the craft grow went to bat for all y'all with the vape stuff. And I don't think you understand there's not enough material out there that we're going to produce to give you. So now you want to talk about market. Let's talk about the market. Let's just talk about the market. And if Nature's Grace and Wellness's outdoor crop didn't get put to oil, there wouldn't be enough oil. And our oil would be $20,000 a liter. So I asked David Lakeman at the last thing, I said, you either let us grow a little outside, to where we can have a little oil on our own. But if they shut down Nature's Grace and Wellness's outdoor grow, it'll just destroy the market, in my opinion. And I don't want to see that. I think Tim and Larry, I mean, they're smart people. They were locked. I mean, let's face it, the CRTA tells you what you need. And as far as I'm concerned, they met the requirement, but that's the thing a lot of people don't think of is there's just not a lot of material out there, and if there is, some guys are holding on to it just because they don't want us to have it.
Yeah. Are you saying, because this has been a story in the news, it's something that I, has shared information about and such. Are you saying that if these outdoor grows weren't essential, or at least specifically with regard to Nature's Grace and Wellness, like if it was not allowed to go on, that the oil market would essentially crash, and then that would have a cascading effect on vapes and edibles?
Everything. It would affect the entire market. Market. And I don't think people realize that or think about it.
And that further, though, that makes your point even more powerful. The fact that you asked for outdoor grow just as a little bit of flexibility so you could get some dollars coming in. And meanwhile, it sounds like that's where the market, like there's a really awesome market opportunity there.
Well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, Nature's Grace and Wellness, great people, great employees out there. They work their ass off just like everybody else, and they do a good job. It's just so sad that us new guys, I'll call ourselves new guys. We're probably going to struggle, right out of the gate, because we're not going to get it right the first time or second time, maybe, so, we need people like that to mentor us. That's what I was always wanting to do was have one of these bigger guys, kind of, I don't want to say take us under their wing, but like just be a source of knowledge, I'm not asking for you to give me the Holy Grail, but if we're struggling with a formulation or, we just can't solve something that they, on a packaging level or, just have a friendly relationship. And, there's plenty to go around, that's the thing that I just shake my head at is, the transportation license, like I said, the state should have never sold that. They didn't know what they were doing. They thought that was going to be home delivery, and there was no. It was a fictitious license. So I really feel for all the transporters because it's I'm a craft grower. It's just like our family farm. I'm going to control my transportation because it controls my cost. It's not anything against anybody. It's just smart business.
Right.
But like I said, Cole, from a monetary standpoint, screwing with that outdoor market could be catastrophic.
You cut off when you said screwing with that outdoor market could be catastrophic.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with now that we're talking about market, let's talk about a statistic nobody probably wants to talk to or bring up, and that's how many of these families that took their savings, did everything right, and are probably bankrupt because of chasing this cannabis dream. Yeah, everybody wants to say, yeah, it's an investment, but no, the state went a little bit further. I think they kind of crossed the line with the promise of loans, and I think there's an ad out there with generational wealth in it. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it affects people, and those people have families, and those families have children, and it just, I've got 5 of my own. I'm scared shitless because my daughter just signed on with Monmouth College, which is a phenomenal college. But I'll be honest, this day and age, I'm scared to death of raising my 5 kids. And I'm a cannabis, business guy. So everybody thinks I got all this money. I got all this money borrowed. I pray we can make it back.
Yeah. People thought it was the golden ticket.
Yeah, I mean, it was, and it was portrayed that way.
Hey, Dan, you said, sorry, you got cut off. You said it was portrayed that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the state really, really portrayed it as well, I mean, obviously it was a social equity program, so they're making promises, and when you're running at I don't even know what the Illinois deficit is right now, but when you're running at an $800 million deficit, I don't know how you can help anyone.
Right. Well, and just to add briefly to your point, if this program was meant to help people that qualify as social equity, the idea is that they have been disadvantaged. So, like, once again, can you throw them a bone?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
It's just like I said. I looked at this as simply as possible as a farmer would. And the containers were the cheapest option by far. I think it was 123 per container. And I think I needed 22 to equal 5,000 square feet. So it just bugs me because, the guys that are open, they're probably north of 10 million. I know ones that's really expensive, but Cole, there's another point, that we're not talking about is we're still getting green taxed. We call a construction company and we're still getting green taxed, I feel. So,
and by that, you mean you face elevated pricing because you're a cannabis business, right?
Yeah. So let's just take our project, right? We've got 8 captive air units that are going to be outside. They're going to duct in, go up the side of the building and duck in at the top. Return's going to be at the bottom. Not the equipment, but just the installation. The cheapest bid we have is $889,000. Just the ductwork and installation, because we've got a separate deal for the hardware, And I just, as a farmer, I don't see where there's 800 and anything when you're dealing with 4 grow rooms and 2 20-ton units per room, just for some redundancy. And it's it's just shocking, So
yeah, it's wild, man. It's wild. Well, what is there, like, I know there's many fixes, but yeah, do you have a list of like things that you feel legislators could address that would fix pain points for craft growers and other participants in the market? I know that you could probably speak on craft growers specifically, though.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all market based. It's all material based, and we're constricted because we're only going to have X amount of pounds, right? We're going to only have X amount of trim or shake or whatever it may be, or biomass. It's just crazy because for me to think of us growing 16,000 square feet and the month is just a dream right now. It's
Hey, you were saying for me thinking about growing 14,000 square feet, and then you got cut off. Sorry, I think we're having an internet issue or something, but I'm listening to you.
Probably me out here in BFE, but
Oh,
anyways,
were you saying it's like the dream to be at that 14,000 square feet, or what were you saying?
Yeah, so with the money we've got borrowed, the money we've got invested, at the point where we're at right now with our craft grow, I'd say we're probably the next one to open. But I'm opening at 14,000 square feet, with the money that we've got invested right now, it's just kind of a pipe dream because, I mean, you to borrow so much more to do that out of the gate, I just couldn't even imagine. I mean, our pockets aren't that deep, and I don't feel.
Dan, you're back now. You were saying you were talking about opening 14,000 out of the gate. Your pockets aren't that deep. Sorry about the issues.
Oh yeah, no worries. No, I mean, it's everybody'd like to open at 14,000 square feet and make that kind of revenue. I mean, we all would, let's face it. But
sure.
Our pockets aren't that deep. We're trying to do it on a shoestring budget because my goal is to have the cheapest craft grow built in Illinois to date. And let's bring up one other thing. The state's using all this data, right? But the data is all got to be skewed in my view, because how many are actually open just growing or just growing a portion, just to save their license? Or what if one's just being an infuser, basically?
I've heard of that, where a craft grower just has a facility and they're just purchasing material from others, and then they're like making edibles or whatever, because that's all they can do. They can't grow yet.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, we're going to be, our extraction side, I've got an amazing individual that's going to do that for us, but I don't think we're going to have the money to devote to it like we wanted. Again, DECO, really let us down on that 750, because we could have put that all into operating or a little bit of CapEx, but it really hurt us. Really hurt us. We had to cut a room down because we were really thinking we were going to get that. So we're only going to open with 3 rooms, opposed to 4, and that's a direct result in their lack of support for a social equity applicant.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to bring anything up, but I think it's important to address, like, you kind of lost, and I'll be clear here, Dan, for the listeners, you lost your composure the other day when we were on the phone, and not in a bad way. I mean, like, you kind of got really sad. Why the strong emotions? I know that's probably a question where you're like, why the fuck are you even asking me that question, Cole? But like, I want to give you the
opportunity. Hey buddy, I'm a teddy bear, man. I just want to see everybody win. Yeah. And I see so many struggling that, and it's like I said, it's just like the DECO thing. One person made a decision to literally take an opportunity away from us over no minutes, because we got a screenshot of 458 and the thing spinning. I mean, it's just absolute craziness. But no, I mean, I'm a pretty emotional guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Um, the group that I want to work with on the dispensaries, it's taken a little longer than I ever anticipated on getting these things rolling. But a lot of people have trouble getting these things off the ground. I mean, they're not cheap either. So the delay there is really weighing on my heart because we've got license holders that are waiting on us to get open, and that weighs heavy on me because I'm a business owner. I want to provide jobs. I want people to get paid. I want to just I want to get open, and I want to do it as simple as possible that and make the most sense, because like right now I try to rationalize things, and it's just like the as simple as the checklist, man. I lay in bed at 3:30 in the morning and think, how hard is it to just do that? I mean, I'm paying $40,000 a year in a license fee for what? I mean, what am I really getting from the state? Nothing.
Yeah, and it's just like with that one, it's like there's got to be a list.
Yeah, I mean,
They're not a list. Like, like there's got to be a list.
I mean, shit, right? When he's in there going to the bathroom, just write some shit on toilet paper and give it to me and say, "Here's your list."
No, but I mean, like they've been doing this since like 2016, man. It's been 10 years, and I know that.
Trust me,
Yeah, and I think what you're doing here is, by the way, like how you're sharing this story. Like I know that in certain ways you're pointing out where, like, you submitted paperwork and the way the system was processing it, like that definitely, that. But I feel like everything else, you've been very fair in saying, like, look, obviously this guy like either doesn't have the power to help me or whatever. And so I guess my question was going to be, why are you sharing your story? But I think it's sort of answering itself. But I wanted to give you the space, like are you hoping that like somebody like David Lakeman gets more empowered to give you the answers that you want, or like what are you sort of hoping comes in the future?
Less bullshit. Just be black and white. I'm so tired of living in the gray area in Illinois. It sucks. And I've got a couple friends opening in other states, and no state's perfect, but man, I'll tell you, the requests that we've had as craft growers has been minuscule, and none of it's gotten done. It's just sad. It really is. And I know you brought up, me getting kind of choked up the other day. And I'm not going to lie. I shed a tear after we got off the call, and it just struck me.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
You said you did shed a tear, and it just struck me, and that's where you got cut off.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to admit on here that I cried, but I've got a lot of emotion that day we talked, because I've been busy focused on doing my job for our investors to do this as cheaply and as efficiently as we can. And that's taken time away from my family. My wife, I love her more than anything, and our 5 kids, and I just want to be able to raise my kids and not deal with the bullshit that we've had to deal with as a craft company, because there ain't a craft company that's dealt with as much bullshit from the state as we have. And it's just like the DECO thing. I personally wish we would have litigated for the original 1.25 and then litigated on the 752, because technically I think we're entitled to it. So, like I said, I'm a big softy, and I'm just an emotional guy, and when we spoke the other day about dollars and cents, and And I think one of the things that we talked about was how the oil market, could fluctuate so drastically because of, if the state shut Nature's Grace and Wellness is oil supply down, it's going to shake the whole market. And as a craft grower, and a new guy, I need a stable market. I don't care if it's low or it's high. I just want a stable market. That way I can forecast. And the state's doing nothing to help that either. I mean, it's just like, there's no material for people to, use in excess or whatever you want to call it. But I don't know. Like I said, it's been tough. It's taken a lot of time away from my kids, which, any job does. I'm not asking for anybody to pat me on the shoulder and say, hey, them extra hours help. But no, I mean, you think simple when you're kind of backs against the wall and you're at the 10-yard line and trying to push it through the goal,
Yeah. What are just curious, like what are some experiences you've heard of other craft growers? I know you said you're part of the association, and so I'm just curious. You said like you're probably the most ready. That makes me think that other members, and I'm not just making this about your members, it can be about other craft growers that you know of that aren't your members, but it just when you say that, it makes it sound like the other craft growers are in like a really bad position.
I would say anybody, and this is just my opinion, this isn't fact or me talking to anybody and getting information, but this is just my view. I think anybody sitting here today, moving forward, is going to have a hell of a time getting open because there is data that's starting to come out to where a couple crafts are doing really well. A couple crafts aren't doing very well. There's going to be more dispensaries sold because they're not performing. And that's across the state. There's some dispensaries that are being sold that I'm shocked, and it scares me. So, like I said, I think we really need to dig into the data because, I know of one craft grow guy that, like you said, he's buying stuff, he's repackaging it, and he's making money. And I'm happy for him. But, I think they bulk our craft grow name into somebody and think, okay, well, they're growing, they're processing, and they're making product. Well, no, there's several making product.
You said no, there's several making product,
but they may be growing or, making pins or whatever. I think there's only a select few that are fully operational with extraction, grow, production, and packaging. Yeah. So, I think a lot of the data that crew and all these people that are trying to gather it, because I think they all want to make changes, and I don't think any of them are wanting any of us to fail. That's not what I'm asking or bitching about. I'm bitching about time, time and answers. That's real money. If I'm waiting on a checklist to go down and try and cut every little extra that I can out of my grow and make it as lean and mean as possible. If it took a year, just think of the interest on $5 million plus my $40,000 fee.
That's
that crazy. I haven't made anything from. It's just, where does it stop? Where does it start? I don't know. I know that's kind of a silly thing to say, but I mean, really, where's it start and stop?
Yeah. My goal, another one of my goals in this is like it seems like some of these people are put in rough positions, like, and like feel free to just say, Cole, like you're being too much of a teddy bear, because sometimes I am also that way. But like, for example, when I asked David Lakeman about outdoor growing, because, you know, he made a point in a presentation that I watched that he was talking about how it's like multi-million-dollar facilities, and I had just gone out to see the facility at Nature's Grace and Wellness, and I was like, the way I described it, so he's talking about multi-million-dollar facilities, I described what I saw as a trip to Home Depot.
Yeah,
because like it's and so I just had asked the question, but my point is that I almost felt bad asking that question because I knew like I couldn't get an answer, and I didn't. And so I guess my question is, like, I feel bad for some of these people sometimes, whether it be from Crew or IDOA or IDFPR. It's like you're asking them the question and they don't know, and they don't, or maybe they just don't have the ability. And so like, just what do you think about that?
I think it's kind of like the railroad. The railroad acts, as soon as you get hired, the famous saying is, you're going to get fired. So, I mean, it's true. You know, I mean, I was going through my BNSF training, and you know, the acronym BNSF, better not start a family. You know, because you're gone. I mean, they don't pay you for what you do; they pay you for your inconvenience. So I kind of look at it as the same way as the railroad. You know, it's they have these kangaroo courts. You know, when you get in trouble, and nothing happens, nothing changes, but everybody jumps up and down and screams. And I just feel like that's where we're at, you know. I mean, nobody can tell me who has the governor's ear, you know, like who is really pushing the buttons. And I can't figure it out, because at one point I was told by Crew that, you know, they're in direct contact with the governor's office, and they do this and they do that. And I'm not saying that they don't. I'm just saying I really wish we knew as business owners that are dumping millions into, you know, businesses that are going to generate astronomical tax revenue. We deserve some answers. And if you can't get the hierarchy of what we need or who we need to talk to, that's a problem. You know, I mean, look, you walk into our family farm, and let's say we've got 20 brothers, 20 sisters, every job, right? But I'm going to know.
Can you restart that thought? You said, let's say we have 20 brothers, 20 sisters, and then.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just say we're a big farm. You know, we got 20 brothers, 20 sisters, dad and mom. You know, obviously dad's going to be where the buck stops. And you know that walking onto the farm.
You with me, Dan?
Yeah. Yeah. If you were doing business with us.
You said you know that when you walk on the farm that the buck stops with dad.
Yeah, so the buck stops with dad. You know, he's the oldest, he's the owner. But if you were doing business with us and you were paying fees to us to do business with us, you would probably, as a business owner dealing with us, you would probably already know the hierarchy. Hey, old Zebediah over there is shipping guy, you know, and Leroy, he's the mechanic, you know, and Sheila, she's the the CFO. I mean, it's just, come on. Who really is running this show? And here's the thing. And Scott, I love it when Scott does this to David, because David hates it. But Scott goes, David, here's simple and here's the most difficult. Can we meet in the middle somewhere instead of meeting completely on the other side of difficult? I just love it. Because it's the truth, you know. It's like there's not really much give and take. It's been difficult the whole way. And I
Yeah.
was, you know, and I'm not saying that I thought this business would be easy by any means. And it's just like I told you when Dr. Shelby said, "Hey, I'm going to kick you in the nuts or give you a hug." I don't know what to do because he's like, "You're starting at the bottom of this mountain right now. You got your license. Now you're going to, you know, have some fun while you're raising money, designing things. But once you raise the money, then you got to find the guy that's going to build it and build it within your budget. So, and then get opened by the state, right? You know, so we sent our drawings in, and guess what? We had some changes. Did I disagree with them? No, but it just, you know, like I said, you pay big bucks for MEPs, and they're not right because we didn't have a checklist, and I have to pay more to get them redesigned. It tends to piss you off.
Yeah. So is your message to the General Assembly and the governor, like, please reach out to the licensees of the cannabis program?
Yeah, I mean, let's have dialogue. I mean, that's all we ask, you know, and not with a two or three, but with all of us, you know. And I think CBIA, you know, I hope that I'll be able to get a board position there because I want to stay active. I want
Has there ever been a survey of licensees by the state?
yeah,
Like
I mean,
where you send out and like,
well, we do a diversity study every year, or we have, and I think there was one year when we were renewing our license. I think there was a questionnaire on like plant count and stuff like this. But you know what's funny, Cole, is the hemp thing. You know, the CBIA opened this hemp can of worms on the General Assembly's floor, blocking us, you know, and our lobbyist with LaShawn Ford. That's when, you know, everybody's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, nothing's going to pass. We're going to have to do some hemp research." You know, I think if they would have kept their mouth shut, we'd at least had that omnibus bill passed. But you know, you never know. Um, and I don't think the big guys really understood as good as you and I do of how impactful at that point hemp was. Because, um, well, I mean, I got a guy out here right now rebuilding one of my trailers. Buddy of his went up to the smoke shop uptown here and got a kratom or kratom or whatever you call it because he's got an abscessed tooth and he had a migraine. So
Yeah.
he took it. Pain was gone, but an hour later he puked for 3.5 hours.
Ooh.
And I'm like, why haven't we brought kratom into this too? Because now they're making synthetic heroin out of it. I mean, there's a kid here in Macomb that died from kratom, left like two little beautiful girls. And Dr. Shelby, you know, he tried it, told me it was the hardest thing he'd ever come off of.
Wow.
So,
yeah. I've had a few other people tell me that as well, that it's harder to get off than heroin, which is crazy.
yeah, no, I mean, it's no bullshit.
Damn.
And that's the thing. Like, you know, I applaud Chicago. I think they did a great job on banning the hemp because, you know, and I, as a hemp grower, you know, I kind of feel bad because there are some brick and mortar guys that are doing it right. You know, I just hate the dirt bags that were doing it wrong, that shit on all the guys that were doing it right.
Yeah.
You know, because that's sad. I mean, but you have that in any industry.
Yep.
But I do think, you know, nobody's talking about this kratom, and it's got to go. It's bad shit.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. So that'd be interesting just to see the General Assembly and the governor sit down with licensees and hear them out. And like I say, I the reason I wanted to sit down with you and I'm going to reach out to others is because I feel like now more than ever, you as cannabis licensees have some leverage. So if I can help at all by sharing your stories in the platform, I'd like to, because
Yeah.
as I told you the other day, like I would like to be able to buy more weed for more people. And if you could get your thing up and running, that would mean that.
Yeah.
I say that being silly, but I also wish the best for you all. You know, it's like this was supposed to have been a great opportunity.
Well, and like I said, I want to make a note that, I think this would have rolled out a lot differently if it wasn't for giving up the real estate as a prerequisite to these licenses. And
Yeah.
and it just, and there's still people that won licenses that still don't have property.
So what would I'm just trying to wrap my head around what you're saying, because you brought that up earlier. What would you have foreseen happening? Like, would those licenses have been given up and then another lottery happened, or like?
No, if he wouldn't have, if the governor wouldn't have did the COVID thing and forgive the property as a prerequisite to winning the license, as it was, anybody that had property and had it locked up obviously could go get a loan of some sort.
Okay,
Because
you're saying like they could apply even if they didn't have the property secured.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So basically, here, let's just say you and I are partners. Hey, man, we got an address we can write down. We don't have to have it secured, but at application process, we did, right? When COVID hit, they took.
Hey, Dan, you said during the application process, you did have to put your license down. And then when COVID happened, and then that's when you cut off.
So, the original application, you had to have property, you had to have something down for that, and you had to have zoning paperwork signed, et cetera, et cetera. When COVID hit, he basically, I think, an executive order, honestly, that pulled that requirement out of the license, out of the application. So the only way that people are loaning money to start up cannabis businesses right now is, so like most people won't loan on a license, because it has no value to a bank. So the real estate does. So that's my point, is there's people still that are holding on to a license that have no property. They have the documents to the state, but I guarantee you go out there and the property ain't there.
So when you want to, like, if somebody bought that license, then do they like do a paperwork process to then get the property? Like do they just switch it?
No, they can move it now.
Oh, they can move it now.
Yeah. So I mean, again, my thing is I just think the state wouldn't have had to focus on so much structure and so much extra paperwork. I think the licensees, if that real estate component would have still been in the application process, I think you would have had 60 craft growers that had an ability to go open. Same with the dispensaries. Like I said, I know people with the $1.25 million loan that I'll bet most of it's spent and they don't have any financing. And those loans, you're going to get 1099 for them.
Yeah.
So are these people going to go bankrupt because they can't pay the tax? I mean, most craft growers are struggling to pay the $40,000 now because it's just been so long.
You mean there's like a $40,000 annual fee? Is that what you're talking about?
For the craft grow. So, the one thing that I've learned in this business is cash burn. What's your burn rate? And it's taken us so long to get financing. Our burn rate's been crazy, just to keep rolling. And that's the thing. Like I said, with the state, nothing's fast, and time is money, big money. So that's the only thing I think if I had anything a magic wand to wave at the state would be everybody get your head in the same place, everybody cohesively talk and figure out a hierarchy and let us know. Put on your website every question you get and every answer. So it's not 10 different answers to 10 different people. Give me a checklist, man. I asked you in 21.
Yeah, not hard. Doesn't sound like a crazy list of requests. So, Dan, I just wanted to say, thank you. Is that what success would look like at this point? Just to get some funding, get some seeds in the ground, ideally get that 14,000 expansion, 14,000 square foot expansion.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my goal right now is we're going to start construction hopefully in I'd say within a month. All the demolitions done. So we're really waiting to go. We're waiting on the state to really go. I would like to at least have 2 of the dispensaries under construction within the next 6 months. And they should be under construction now. It's just crazy how long it's taken, but I'm thankful for the position we're in there. Got good people. But yeah, I mean, and then a stable market, and that's the thing. One strike of a pen could change our entire lives.
Yeah. And I'll just say to you, as you move forward, let me know if you ever want to come back on, and if you want to, I don't know what you're able to do as a cannabis company, but if you want to if you've got some sort of crowdsourcing idea, if you want to give people the opportunity to support you or whatever, I don't know. I guess I'm just trying to say and you've known this opportunity, or I hope this opportunity has always been open, but if I can help you at all with the platform, let me know, because you've helped me over the years, even if it's just small comments you made in passing at Benzinga. I remember one time you and a group of others thanked me for sharing the outdoor grow story. And I was I didn't even know it was that big of a deal to you all.
No, it's huge, because until you really do the research, I hate to say it, and sorry to Tim and Larry Joe, but I didn't realize how important it was to the market. And now that I do, I understand a little bit more.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
We'll start to wrap up here soon. You were just saying now that you do understand sort of the impact on the market.
Yeah, I'm sure Tim and Larry Joe have been through some trials and tribulations with that outdoor grow, but at the first, when I was denied by the state, the ability to even grow 2.5 acres, just to help, with our bills, it really pissed me off. And I don't want to say that it gave me a bad feeling that they got to do it and we didn't. It's just, it's just one of them things where I thought, God, we're at the end of our rope, and man, it just would have helped us get a little bit farther along. But now that I'm in the market and I know a lot more about the market, I look back on my thoughts and I feel bad, because, if it wasn't there, it's hard to say what us craft growers would be paying for distillate or the infusers. I mean, the infusers would probably be more up in arms than I am.
Yeah. What's crazy, Dan, I'll just say this, it is crazy because you said it would be maybe 20,000 a liter. From what I understand, it's or it was 10,000 a liter. I don't know. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know. We always try and on our meetings kind of, just pass around.
Sorry, you said in your meetings you try to pass around, I'm guessing, the going rate or something.
Yeah, I mean, we just talk, we talk. We don't talk about sources or where it's coming from or anything like that. But generally, guys will be like, hey, I bought 10 at 68, and somebody else will be like, hey, I bought, 2 at 7 or 75. And So I'd say it's probably, and it depends on the season too, right? So I'm trying to think. Probably the last time you and I talked about a month ago, I think O'Hearns were just finishing up harvest, so they were probably running all that material. So they're probably sitting on some oil. But in 6 months it might be gone. So for us as a craft guy that doesn't have a ton of
you said for us as a craft guy who doesn't have a ton of
liquidity or cash to burn.
Sure.
But with the prices, maybe it'd be smart for us to buy 10 liters up front just to have and get a better deal. So, just.
Well, so my point that I was going to make briefly is that it's just nuts that you can go to Michigan and buy like that same amount of oil as a recreational customer for way less than that.
Well, I've got a friend in Chicago. It's a Persian family. They probably have the best cannabinoids that I've ever bought, when we were doing the hemp stuff. And I think a liter of D9 from her was like $4.50 the last I checked. So it's just crazy. But
right, exactly.
And the sad thing is, though, Cole, is we've got to protect our market, because if we all had $450 liters, I don't know. I don't know if it'd make it tougher to make it or not. Probably.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
For consumers,
For sure. I mean, for sure.
It'd
be tough.
The thing that really blows me away, and I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are on this, but in the last year, let's just say 30 dispensaries came online, right? Well, I mean, our market in Illinois isn't elastic. Why is that? Because if you look at the total sales, we're almost flatlined, right? So bringing 30 more on didn't add any revenue. So you're just stealing from somebody else, because the box that has all the money isn't elastic, That just shocks me that we're adding dispensaries and the revenue is not going up. The only thing that tells me is the customers that were in that area aren't driving as far and are buying the same amount.
It also, for me, what it tells me is that the supply is still like basically what it was. Maybe I'm looking at it too simplistic.
Well, hey, you might be right. Maybe all the guys are growing as much as they can, and there isn't enough product to go around. I know there's,
what I mean to say, I guess, Dan, is like back in 2020, or maybe it was 2021, Grown In. I don't know if you remember Grown.
Yeah.
Grown In.
Oh,
they did reporting that like 80% of the market was like 6 people.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that's what it is today.
Right.
It's been more than a few years, but like I can't imagine it's changed much. Is kind of my point.
Well, and it could be through simple things like we talked about. If I'm a craft grower and I'm not at full capacity of growing, processing, and packaging, maybe we are still limited.
Yeah.
And I mean, it tells me that somebody's either holding product or there just isn't enough extra out there for us to buy a ton more to process, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
who knows, but it's interesting. In any case, it is interesting. But I just appreciate you sitting down with me today. I want to have you back on anytime you're down, but I would love to just get you back on anytime, because I feel like there's a lot of insights I can learn from you, that we can learn from you as a licensee. So
like I said, my goal is to help make all of this cheaper for everyone, MSOs included. Everybody struggles to get open. Everybody struggles to probably pay off that initial debt, and I just pray that we can do that and eventually, put money in our pocket. And like I said, I've just scared to death to do this and raise my 5 kids and have a steady paycheck. So I'm praying every night, but I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. I hope so, Dan. I hope so. Thank you for the support, for always saying hi over the years and stuff. And thank you for coming on the show. I really, like I said, I really appreciate it. And I look forward to the next time we can sit down and talk, whether it's on here or, I'm just a phone call away. You got my phone number. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all the support too. Like I said, it takes a team, and I consider you a teammate. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad I've been able to help, even if it's been in just random ways. So, anyways, well, folks, I hope you found value, and I hope you found as much value as I did in this conversation. We'll see you on the next episode of the Cole Memo. Everybody, take